Hi, everyone. It's Carolyn Moore with Modern Widows Club. And today we are doing a special webinar on alternative ways to give to charity. Now, our guest speaker is Megan Kopka CFP, CRPC with Kopka Financial LLC in Cape Fear, North Carolina. Megan has done a lot of work with widows at Modern Widows Club in the financial health pillar. And if you take any of our e-courses, you will see Megan's face. And Megan is also a WISTer, a widow sister. So she really understands the impact, how important it is to donate to charities, let's say like Modern Widows Club, and just to be a giver, to pay it forward. And so we're just going to have a really nice conversation today. Welcome, Megan, from Costa Rica.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I love being here. I love being with you, Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, Giving Tuesday is November 29th, right? It's coming up. It's the big day when everyone is generous after Thanksgiving and after Black Friday and all of that. It's a national day. There's about 1.3 million nonprofits. Now, we're one of them, Modern Widows Club, right? We're a public charity that is completely reliant on donations. But what we found in the last couple of years is instead of just simply giving money, there's alternative ways that people can give. And I know this myself personally, having been on the board of another nonprofit. And I actually had an interior design client that deeded a home. And it ended up being a $300,000 donation. I had no idea that that was even possible to do. And so I've learned so much from you. And so what are some other kind of efficient ways for people to just start thinking about giving?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. We often think about the ways that we give falls under the three T's, the time, the treasure, and the talent. And
Yeah.
so we'll focus a little bit on treasure, and I don't want to get too technical about the things that I do because I am a firm believer that everyone should work with a CFP. I work with a CFP. That is not me.
Work with the CFP.
Right? So why does a CFP work with another CFP? Because it's prudent to have a partner and have fresh eyes on things that we either know about and know well or not at all. And a lot of the things that we talk about and discuss, I always want to keep in mind being in tune with your money to me is like being in tune with anxiety in your breath, right? To me, money is life vitality,
Yeah.
right? So if we start thinking about it like chi, money is going to come into us and we are going to send our money away from us. Just like when we want to calm ourselves down, we can breathe in and we can breathe out, right?
Yeah.
Rhythmic breathing. So we have that like kind of in our monthly budget or our monthly spending plan, as you like to call it. And it's just cash flow. It just is. So I'm glad that you're having me on because I think normalizing conversations about money is super important. And when we're newly widowed, fresh widows, it's so hard to wrap your mind around your whole world changing, including what the average is a 40% decrease in income. Like,
Yes.
wow, where's that magic going to happen? So that's why I always start with,
Right. I'm in a deficit here. Yeah.
right. Let's talk about getting a CFP in place. I know a lot of people don't want to make those major decisions in the first year, and I wish that we would stop talking like that because so many do get made, right? We don't live in a vacuum. But enlisting a support group, like a grief group, and a certified financial planner, someone who will help you write a plan, not just sell you a product, is prudent. And then when it comes to year-end time, like now, there's efficient ways that you can give to charity, especially with Giving Tuesday coming up. Your family's going to be together for Thanksgiving. And there's a lot of bittersweet in all of the holidays and the burdens of traditions and how hard that's going to be to face. That I really want to change the conversation that talking about giving is really talking about generosity. And we're generous with our friends, we're generous with our family, maybe providing that Thanksgiving meal. And we don't think about things like that. Like we are giving a lot of ourselves financially to a 4 or 5 or $600 meal, right? Or
Mhm.
people staying in our homes or hitting the road and traveling so you can be apart with people. But that's a way of giving, right? Gifts to our friends, buying coffee for the person behind you in the checkout line. Um, but when you want to make generosity part of your values and part of your family values,
Mhm.
I think talking about it at the Thanksgiving table is a perfect time. I love Giving Tuesday. I think it's awesome. So I think when we're talking about, you know, in my field, when I talk to other financial planners, they want to talk about qualified charitable distributions and
Right.
appreciated stock. And, most people go into that blank stare
Yeah.
when we go into industry speak, right? They're just like, I don't
Industry
know,
speak.
Megan,
That's a
tell
great
me
way
what
to
to
put it.
do.
Industry speak. Oh my god.
But having the normalized conversation between you and your family, or even between us today, is just like that final thought. What I'd want everyone to get from this talk is that if you value generosity, it is very likely the more generous you become, the higher your well-being will be.
Mhm. It's true. I've had conversations. I've just asked the question before, who here gives to a cause that they care about, that has been maybe instrumental or foundational in who you've become? I mean, it
Yeah.
really actually comes down to that, right? So it's like, the grief center that I went to, not only did I do the 3 T's, the time, the talent, and the treasure, right?
Right.
I I also shared it. I send a lot of widows come from that organization now into ours. And
Mhm.
so that generosity, not only of the the funds, because public charities have to be funded. If they don't, they go away, right?
Right.
They go away, and we've seen after this pandemic, we have seen a tremendous, amount. I've actually gone over to GuideStar and researched it. I'll just use Florida as an example. We have, 163 registered nonprofits that somehow in some way, registered to, support widows. There's only 62 still active. So
Yeah.
that means 101 nonprofits that said that they were serving widows went somewhere.
Right.
That's
Right.
shocking statistics. We at Modern Widows Club don't want to be one. We're actually serving now at a higher capacity. We're so far this year at about 105,000 direct services. So when you think about that, it's like it's shocking because before the pandemic, it was about 6,000. So giving is so important, and last year was the first time we ever had actually a Apple stock was
Yeah.
donated into our donor advisor fund, which we were so excited because we spent the year preparing for the potential for it to happen, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden it did. And it was because of one of the widows talked to them exactly what you just said around Thanksgiving, and they said, "Well, we can give a couple shares of Apple stock, right?" And
Yep.
so there it sits, in our donor advised fund. Um, so as a planner, how do you support charitable giving goals? Like you would talk about how, like if someone has a CFP or they're looking to, how do you support
Well,
charitable
it's a
giving?
little bit different. I mean, I'm walking the path as a life planner, not just as a financial life planner, right? So money's
Mhm.
going to support our well-being. So there's a surprising statistic out there. I can't remember who did the research, but two-thirds of retirees actually report that they feel their retirement is quiet, boring, and lonely. And I wonder how that resonates with widows, right? So some of our widows might be retired and experiencing that. I know that first year of mourning bereavement, I mean, yeah, it's like the quiet is deafening. You can feel that in your body. And
Mhm.
so, getting to people to find out more about themselves when you're widowed is tough. That's going to take 3 to 5 years of rediscovery. It's a
Mhm.
big transition time. But the more self-aware we are about what our values are, the easier it is to talk about giving. Because Modern Widows Club, I mean, when Keith was sick, we did the ALS walk every year. We were one of the top raising teams. We were movers and shakers in our area. I know you're shocked to hear that, right? But we raised a lot of money. And when I became widowed, what people never tell you in caregiving conferences is that the worst is yet to come. Like, this was really hard. And I found you on Facebook doom scrolling in 2015 at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
Those were my
goodness.
hours, right? Yeah. But like, you were my salvation. So we start thinking about, what does Modern Widows Club offer? And for me, it was like a no-brainer: time, talent, treasure. A lot of time, I'm a community advocate. I sit as the chair on the Golden Committee. I attend the events that I can attend. But the other thing I do, and this might sound selfish, but it makes me happy. My daughter will say I'm bougie because I need to go buy the VIP ticket to Modern Widows Club. And I'm like, guess what? That's a good strategy for me to give the organization more money. Do I need to sit in the front row? No, sometimes it's more fun in the back. I talk. I'm the kid who should be in the back of the room. But finding different ways like that. But from a technical money standpoint, so ladies, hang in there with me. From a technical standpoint, when you talk about appreciated stock, some of us have brokerage accounts, right? Life insurance proceeds is not tied up in a retirement account. It's not protected from capital gains. This year's been a little bit different. There might be losses. At the end of the year, talk to your advisor about harvesting gains and losses. If you still have gains, like I have a client who's owned Apple stock, Microsoft, for probably 2 decades. And so when they bought those stocks at $40 a share and they're trading at 300 with splits involved and all of a sudden, if you were to write Modern Widows Club a check for $100, or actually let's make it more real because Microsoft stock is more, $200, $300. If you wanted to give $200 or $300 and called up your broker and said, hey, will you sell one share? You will pay 15 or 20% in capital gains, 0%, 15%, or 20% in capital gains
Right.
taxes for cashing that out. Versus Modern Widows Club can
Yeah.
give you a wire transfer to go directly,
Yeah.
and nonprofits don't pay capital gains. So you've protected yourself from taxes and you've given it's actually a bigger gift. It's the same
Yeah.
amount.
It actually is a bigger gift. You're right. That's a good way to
Yeah.
put
It's a bigger gift from your standpoint,
it.
right? So you are going to give them one share at $330, but by the time you got it and paid taxes on it, it's really only $270. So,
Mhm.
are you writing a check for $330 or $270? So that's one way to strategically give. This is what we call planned giving and using the strategies versus spontaneous. A lot of people just want to go straight to their checkbook or throw a
Right.
$100 bill in a card and send it off. But there are more efficient ways, and a qualified charitable distribution is a second way that
Mhm.
is tax efficient. You have to be over the age of 70 and a half to do a qualified charitable distribution,
Mhm.
and you must have a traditional retirement account,
Okay.
and you cannot touch the money. So again, you've got to talk to your financial institution where your traditional IRA is, get a distribution set up that goes directly to the Modern Widows Club. And what's great about this is two things. When you take out of a traditional retirement account, you get taxed at ordinary income. Now, you might be at the 10 or 12% or 22 or 24% tax bracket. But again, when you're talking about 37% tax bracket, 24% tax, anything, you're avoiding ordinary income hitting your tax return when you use the strategy of making a qualified charitable distribution.
Mhm.
And if you're over the age of 72, you got all that time putting money into your traditional IRA, and at age 72, the IRS says, okay, we want some of our taxes now. You have a required
Required.
minimum distribution. And a
Yes.
qualified charitable distribution will actually satisfy your required minimum distribution. So if you ever hear the word or the acronym RMD, I shouldn't say acronym, letters RMD, that is a required minimum distribution. You must take that out. So if you can use a qualified charitable distribution, what that means, if you must take 30,000 out of your IRA on an annual basis and you wanted to give 10% to the Modern Widows Club, you would do you would have a qualified charitable distribution of $3,000 going to the Modern Widows Club. You would still have to take out another 27,000 for yourself because 27,000 plus 3,000 meets that required minimum distribution.
I
But
see.
all 30,000 didn't have to come to you and hit
Right.
your income tax, only 27,000 did. The other 3 you pushed over to Modern Widows Club.
Right, so that's a creative way to, like, slice it and help a charity,
Mhm.
continue its mission, and also satisfy your own tax benefits.
Yep. So
I
it's again, it's another example of it's not that you're necessarily giving more, but you are
right,
giving more because it's taking less out of your pocket.
correct.
Um, you're cutting out the IRS
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. Well,
Not
does anyone really wanna pay the IRS?
yeah, yeah, some people do, it's their patriotic duty. They're happy to, help the USA, but me, I'm like, I think you can do a better job in making those decisions for yourself, you know? So, my philosophy is if we get more money in the hands of generous people, the world will be a better place. It's not just about
Yeah.
your personal well-being.
I have found that a lot of our donors are, they're people who have either lost a parent or lost a wife or lost a spouse. Hands down, our biggest contributors here at Modern Widows Club is Modern Widows. This whole organization has been built on the back and the bank accounts and the generosity of widows themselves. However, not everyone is given a windfall. As women get older, we know that they're inheriting both from their parents and also from their spouses. But then some of them are young, like we were, and we're still in our careers, right? And we're still in the retirement planning stage. Um, Personally, of course, I'm the founder of Modern Widows Club, so I've been investing in the organization since the beginning, and I'm always we're doing a book project right now, and I just had a donor help with that particular book project because we needed about $3,000 to finish it. To finish, you have to have money, but the book is going to bring so much knowledge into the main media space, and in helping widows be a part of the conversation in March, in Women's History Month, on International Women's Day, right? So such a small in comparison of a donation, but it's going to end up getting into the hand. This book is going to get into the hands of so many people, and it's stories of MWC and it's stories of other legendary widows. It's based on that, and it was just like a shock. I was just talking about it one day, and someone said, "I want to make that possible for you because that is going to help raise awareness that widows are resilient, that widows bring a lot of light in the world, they have a lot of value." The gender lens investing idea of investing in women and girls, because now, as you know, bringing your daughter to the Widow Empowerment event, we're serving both now. We're serving the next generation of women who are going to grow up and have different conversations with their partners, right? And potentially, and they're the ones that are also watching their mothers.
Yeah, yeah,
So as mothers, we're walking in our widowhood journey, but then there's them watching us. I didn't have that experience because my mother was widowed 2 years before me. So there is this power, not just women giving, but men coming alongside us and saying this is something that's extremely important to
yeah.
exist in the world, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my community, we had 2 gentlemen just from me doing a speech in my Toastmasters group
Yeah.
that made donations. They were like, "I'm just glad you're doing this, because my wife is statistically likely to be widowed, and I wanna know this club will be
Mhm.
here for them." And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful gift, and so that's what I mean, like, some people will travel to an orphanage to give back or, go on mission trips. Some people would just want to like home in and spend locally to support their community. And for me, like that shift was from ALS and trying to support all the technology and the drug trials and testing so they would be on our timeline to, oh my gosh, I'm widowed. And
Yeah,
I always remember when people do things that are kind for you, you remember that.
you
So
do.
when you go back and you do something kind for someone else, it makes you feel so good. Like there's this gratitude season that we're going into, right? So gratitude for Thanksgiving and then the holiday season where we exchange gifts. There's some humbleness and definitely an increased amount of love
Hmm.
and I guess some solidarity too in your community. And that's what I think about with those retirees that feel quiet or bored or lonely. And what volunteering gives you is a social sense of well-being, right? You get the community, but just like you were talking about with the Legendary Widows book, you're building your own legacy. And
Yeah.
I am the woman who I am because Keith married me, right?
Yes.
Like, because I was his wife and I didn't stop being his widow. Like I'll always be his widow.
Right.
And that's a huge catalyst in my life, right? The
Yes.
most stressful event and how we handle it and all those things. But Modern Widows Club, it provides social interaction. We have relationship building. We have communities, whether they're virtual or in person. And we get recognition for our status as widows. And we can have recognition just here in community as well. I mean, the crowning event, to be recognized as, part of this divine feminine that we are. It's just
Right.
it's amazing. I've recently, my daughter was talking to her college roommate who asked her if would you mind if we talked about money because she moved back home and Jaden is out on her own. Jaden's like, "Oh no, I'm happy to share with you my income and how much I pay in rent and what the split looks like." And I'm like, "Oh, it's happening. We're reaching that next generation. We'll go to events and pass around sex toys and talk about, like all this personal information, but money's too taboo." And it's,
Right.
and then also as widows, people will cross lines many times in so many different ways too. And financial advice is one of them. I've gotten the worst financial advice from family members. And first of all, I'm like, back off. Do you know what I do for a living? But the second part was kind of like, gosh, well, how do I help my widowed clients or any widow actually,
Right. Right.
run off unsolicited advice? So I always tell people, I'm like, tell them thank you so much for your concern. My financial planner and I are discussing that very issue. Done. It's not their
Right.
business and it's not their
Right.
profession. So that's the
Yeah.
other
So,
thought.
because here at Modern Widows Club, as you
Mhm.
know, we are really kind of we're not kind of, we are changing the culture of health for widows. We see our organization as a women's health organization first and foremost, that actually is focused on widows because that's the number one most stressful life event. We know that the financial insecurity impact, whether you are left with a windfall or not, you still need to, it's still, there's
Yeah.
there's all, whatever level it is, it has some
Yeah.
kind of
Scarcity
management decision.
is a huge
So,
issue with widows in
what are
poverty, but
some
also abundance is
yeah,
like
so
being a good
what are some
steward.
final thoughts? Yeah, just,
Um,
as we're closing here.
yeah, I mean, I think instead of just talking about charitable giving or qualified charitable distributions and appreciated stock, if we change the conversation to talk about our values as mothers, as widows, as I value education, start tracking where are you putting your money? Do you value generosity? Has someone done something nice for you and you would like to pay it forward? What is their charity? I donated to a military museum because that's one of my best friend's places. So,
Yeah,
thinking about the giving holiday season and how grateful we are to have someone that was treasured and worth missing, I think would be my final thoughts is
yeah.
leaving our own legacy, just like the legendary widows have done before us.
That's right, that's right, and that is really a part of the legacy. I think that we're going to see more and more, maybe widow philanthropists care about this topic because they're starting to realize the need to be able to support widows organizations like ours because it's
And then
traditionally not involved. It's not included in traditional, foundation giving. Yeah,
so I think one of the biggest things that helps, and it's been proven, like when you volunteer, that endorphin release
yeah,
is valid. I mean, it's huge. So, what gives you that? And I would say personal connection.
yeah,
Are you be mindful about your giving?
yes,
Right? Do you have the personal connection? Is this something that's gonna really fulfill you,
right.
that's important to you? And there takes a level of self-awareness. Like, I
Mhm.
shifted from a donor at the ALS
That's right,
Association to the Modern Widows Club.
that's right.
This is where I wanna support because our what, overall mission, if we were to sum it down, and I loved the way that you put this, is to reduce widows' suffering.
That's
And
right,
anytime I hear about a new widow, and it's never gonna stop, it's
that's
never
right,
gonna stop, but it's
yeah.
just it's soul crushing, and then you know that you have an organization to turn them to. So
I
support the Mothers
always I
Club. This is
always
what
talk
we do.
about I always talk about this idea of widow utopia. What do we wish would happen for widows, right?
Mhm.
In a
Yeah.
perfect world, we'd have Jeff Bezos giving us $100 million, and we would be deciding who all around the world who cares about widows, and it would just be a completely different situation for the 300 million widows around the world. Honestly, like we would know what to do and where to put the money because we're the subject matter experts on what's happening for widows. And so, I actually had a dream last night. And so I was just like, okay, well, where would we put it? And I had a pretty framed out answer being asked that question. And because I've learned how little widow nonprofits are actually supported. They're passed over, and we don't want that. A formidable woman is a terrible thing to waste. That's what I always say. So we need to invest definitely in widows organizations. We need to pay it forward if they've touched our life. And I hope everyone will be giving to my Widows Club on Giving Tuesday, November 29th. We look forward to sharing a lot of stories that day. And I'm so grateful to you, Megan, for just pouring your heart always into financial health, but really just about the mindset about money and the beauty in giving and generosity. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I hope everyone does remember that there are so many educational opportunities and ways that you can gift widows through our organization.
Yeah.
So that's another thing where if you need something tangible, we have it. We've got
Yep. We
packages
do.
of courses, we've got giveaways, all that kind of stuff. So definitely keep us in mind. It is surprising to me that we are primarily supported by widows. And I guess my really one final thought, um, when I looked at who supports the ALS Association, Permobile, it's a power wheelchair company, supports the ALS Association. They're on the website. That makes sense. That's a wheelchair company. ALS patients are going to need that. It makes sense that they would do that sponsorship. But then I saw stuff like GE and Mitsubishi. Well, probably someone with ALS,
Mhm.
an employer, and that's why they're one of the major donors. And where are our major donors?
Yeah.
How are widows impacted? Who's going to support widowhood? And that's why we see this falling to the back of many widows. So we do need the Sheryl Sandbergs, the
The
Celine
Lord
Dion,
jobs.
Katie Couric,
Yeah,
people who have megaphone power voices
that's right.
in the world to really step up with some solid foundation and sponsorship.
Yeah.
Thanks for your
Well,
time. I
thank
appreciate being
you.
here.
Thank you. I thank you so much, everyone, for watching this. And I hope you got some alternative ways to give to charity. And I hope you remember Modern Widows Club. So have a great trip, Megan.
Thank you. Happy holiday giving season to everyone. And thank you, my lovely, lovely listeners.
Yeah. Bye bye.